We're going to see Iliana Regan to the Milkweed Inn. We're talking about foraged food experience, Michelin starred chef experience. A friend of mine, my pen pal, Iliana. It's going to be great, and it's so exciting to be in the UP.
So we got an hour to go before our pickup into the Milkweed, and we see this sign out here in Rapid River called Jack's. Come in here looking for a piece of pie, and you know what? We found it. Just met up with Anna from the Milkweed Inn at the Rapid River gas station, which is where she comes down to get everyone, and we're on the road now going up to the Milkweed Inn. Pretty exciting stuff. Looking forward to this.
And here I am. It's October of 2022 now, and you lived through the pandemic as an entrepreneur in the food business, there's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah.
And you're here now, and I've had a chance to get to know you through your book, so I know a little bit about the fact that you grew up in a setting that was rural. And that your father taught you how to forage in the beginning. To get started, I've been just finishing up this book by Jim Harrison, The Search for the Genuine. And what I like about it is that Jim grew up here. I grabbed a little quote. It said, I had been back in the landscape where I felt I belonged. And I kind of get the sense that that speaks to you. So I thought maybe you could comment on that to get us started.
I wanted to be in a setting where I felt like I wanted to be, and doing something with the food that felt more sustainable than, serving 150 people a week. Serving 10 a week is a lot more sustainable. So yeah, that's kind of how the return, I guess, happened.
Sturgeon River in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. This is a wild and scenic river, and as you can see, it's living up to its name. I've spent the last hour and a half fishing this river, and I find it to be, one of the hardest rivers I've ever approached. Very hard because it's a wild and scenic river and there's wood everywhere. Getting a cast in without snagging up is pretty tough. I've lost 3 flies in the maybe 40 casts that I was able to get in. Found a few holes, wasn't able to, rise a fish, but ultimately it's been a great trip. I know that I'm going to be able to walk up this hill behind me, and breakfast is going to be up there. Yeah. Let's see. Okay. Larry Carlson.
Sitting back a little bit.
Or
I am the co-owner of the Milkweed Inn along with my wife, Iliana Regan. I'm front of house and Elena's back of house. A small part of my job, which is what I was trained in, is doing the beverage pairings, the wine and the kombuchas and the beer. What it's like to work with your spouse, it's so much more strain on the relationship. You have to have really strict boundaries in place, and you have to be willing to work through conflict. It's definitely not always easy, but I don't want to have any other job. I don't want to work with anyone else. I love my wife.
So let's talk about fear for a second. The fear, you've opened how many places now? Businesses?
4.
4 businesses.
Yeah.
You've gone through the process of conceptualization, finding the financial support or not, and then initiating the deal, and then opening. Can you take us through that with the Milkweed Inn? Because I think that this is outside of the box.
Oh yeah, I did this one mostly myself. So I saved up a little bit for a down payment, but my dad, my sister, and my mom all helped me co-sign for the mortgage. And then really I just kind of gambled. I was like, well, now we don't have any money left. Elizabeth didn't have any money. I was losing it all to Kitsuna. Which
Elizabeth is the restaurant in Chicago.
Yeah, that I used to own. And then I had another restaurant there which was going down. And so all that, robbing Peter to pay Paul. So then I was like, well, we're going to do a bed and breakfast here, and I'm just going to sell it. I'm going to sell it, even though I had never been here. So I sold out a whole season and then got some money in the bank. And then we used that to make little repairs and do everything to get ready to open. Essentially used the money that we made to go ahead and invest in getting set up. So I did it in reverse.
Okay.
Everybody who was coming for that first season essentially became our lenders in a sense. But it worked out. Otherwise I would have been screwed. When Anna came here for the first time, she's like, we're never going to get that Airstream back here. You're going to have to call every single person and refund them. And I was like, well, I can't refund them because I don't have the money. So we're going to have to get that Airstream back here. So, but we got it back.
So the first time I drove down this road, the place had already been purchased. Elena had already sold tickets to it, and I was horrified. What did you do? How are we going to do this? I don't understand how this is going to be a possibility or how this is going to work. So that was my thought. I was very negative. That's the thing about being married to Elena is she just figures everything out and then I help her execute it. But I am much more of a cautious and slow person, and she is go, almost impulsive, on to the next thing, has to get stuff done. So hopefully we balance each other out a little bit in that way.
Can you talk a little bit about the 2 books, how you started and what Burn This Place did for you?
Burn the Place was essentially just a memoir of my life, and the through line was about becoming a chef, even though it's not your typical chef memoir. That book really helped us kind of launch here because we really became busy because the book got some notoriety. So that, I think, alerted people to what we were doing. And so then I had a second book scheduled with my publisher, and he asked me to do a narrative on foraging. And that one, the through line is foraging, but again, it's about more than that. It's about, being out in the woods and being in, connection with yourself and with nature. And it's a lot about family history, so that book sort of wraps around burn the place. It goes further into my past and my family's past and their connections with the woods, and then also more current time. So there's stories of us being up here in that.
And here I am walking the trails of the Milkweed Inn today. It's early October 2022, and I've been thinking about this trip since 2019. The backstory on this trip for me started when, Miguelito got a little bit upset in July of 2019, and he quit his job as the backup cook at Estia's Little Kitchen. So I spent the summer working in the basement, and Rich Roll was my partner. I listened to the Rich Roll podcast daily during that time, and I was able to learn a lot about extreme sports, sobriety, serenity, and eating healthy. His message is basically a vegan lifestyle. And I brought that into my life during that time, and it helped me a lot. But one of the most important and memorable guests that he had was Iliana Regan. After listening to that podcast, I picked up Iliana's book, Burn This Place. I read it. I learned about the Milkweed Inn. I contacted the Milkweed Inn and booked this trip. Anna and Iliana have created a real eddy in life here, a place where you can come and leave the internet behind, you can leave the phone behind, you can leave the TV behind, and you can sit with a book or walk the trails or sit in the sauna, and you're going to be sure that you'll get introduced to food that's been forged and organized from this neighborhood. This is a sustainable program. It's a great example for what people can do when they put their mind to it. Nasturtium flower, the chokecherry jam, amino acid spray. Roasted mule deer in a pine roasted miso broth. And then let's talk just a little bit about foraging here, because that's a big part of what you do. And the range, how far do you go from the cabin, and what are the stories? Can you share one with us about something that really surprised you?
Yeah, we go about 10 miles out sometimes, because if you notice when you were coming in, there's lots of little microclimates. You can go up a little bit and down, and some are, a lot of pine where they're pine farms, and then some's really deciduous. Some of the areas are a little swampy, depending if there's a creek. So there's all sorts of little different areas where things are growing. So I might look for wintergreen in one area and cattails in another, and mushrooms in another. Ramps, there's one area where ramps grow that I've only found in that particular area. And I had to reteach myself a little bit coming up here because this forest is a lot different than the lower Midwest. So it took a while to get my bearings with what was available. There's not a lot of oak trees in our vicinity, so a lot of those fall mushrooms that I used to forage with my dad were kind of out of the question unless we go about 20 miles out. So this year we probably found like 20 pounds.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
we found a lot throughout the year.
and is that something you can go back to those places and pretty confident to find more?
Yeah.
Great. And if you were to give someone that came to you advice in terms of maybe they're just out of culinary, maybe they've worked for Charlie Palmer or John George for 2 or 3 years and they're thinking about breaking out. You've had that experience working, you worked at Iliana?
I did for a year, yeah.
And you soaked up that information and you used it. What's your best advice for that person that's thinking about making the leap?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, a lot of people ask what I would go back and tell my younger self if I could, and my answer to that always is don't open a restaurant. So it's not, this sage, cheerful advice. Like, it's still very hard for me and Anna because we're supporting each other with our different roles, but we're doing the whole business. So, I guess if people are going to go out there and open their own place, it'd be nice for, I think, a chef to be a chef and not do payroll and HR and sales taxes and all those other things. So yeah, that was my thing. So, but yeah, I think cooking for people is the thing that keeps me in it, in creating dishes and things like that. Like, I know as much as sometimes I dislike being a business owner, I love being a chef.
Yeah, me too.
Mm-hmm.
Me too. Thank you. The dolmas last night were
Good.
memorable. Everything was. The pierogies,
Good.
the ice cream sandwich, the salad. It was all on the point, and I just can't wait for this evening.
Great.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
What makes me happy here is honestly, I think specifically this time of year, I feel like being back in the woods in the fall is so nostalgic and charming. And the other thing that makes me really happy is just when we have people here that really connect with each other or us or the space and find it like totally revelatory. Like, the notes and things that we get, that this was just the best experience. I mean, this job is really hard, but to me, all that stuff makes it worth it.
It's absolutely the most enchanting experience I've had in the hospitality industry in a very long time.
Thank you.
And I congratulate you on that. And
Yeah, we're really proud of it.
So if you do come to the Milkweed Inn, my suggestion is enjoy the food and get out and walk the trails in between each meal so that you're ready for the next one.